The reality setting in, with a change of venue, the skilled nursing facility Colony Park, renamed Country Villa Modesto. Now a member of the largest purveyor of nursing facilities in California, the Country Villa Health Services Corporation. Brad not hesitating to give the supervisors a heads up on the new facility administrator starting in June. The incoming administrator would be Rushmi Berlaw, with past experience as an administrator for Nexion Health in Bayview, Texas, and a prior administrator for the Country Villa Westwood facility in Los Angeles. Brad making a point that this lady was an alpha type A, on the Jacob Goldsmith theory of personalities. Aggressive, ambitious, businesslike, a competitive and time-conscious person. She was married with 2 sons, her husband Rajneesh, a physician, having acquired a position with Kaiser Permanente in Modesto. Colony Park having been a prior training facility for corporate administrators under the tutoring of Brad, the supervising staff somewhat used to being approached by a designated administrator. But at the same time having developed an aura of independence and decision-making with Brad traveling to fulfilling his corporate duties. With the new administrator's arrival, the only immediate noticeable change was her time schedule, Rushmi with 2 young children to ready in the morning, arriving after 8 for the department supervisor's 9 o'clock morning meeting. Gary recognizing the difference between Country Villa Healthcare Service Corporation and Colony Park's diminutive healthcare management, jokingly associating to the department supervisors. When working for healthcare management, they might be deemed as big fish in a little pond. But with the prodigious Country Villa, as little fish in a much bigger pond. The advent of improvements to the facility beginning. Valley Air Contractors parking a large semi-trailer with a 100-ton mobile chiller to be used as they proceeded to disassemble the old absorption cooling tower and cogeneration system. Installing a new 120-ton system. With the new management came other changes. Once a month, Brad and the department heads would meet at the gourmet buffet in the McHenry Village Shopping Center for lunch. Plus, if there was time, a trip to McHenry Bowl for a brief lane of bowling. Compliments of Brad, and most noticeably what would be missed, the monthly grill cookout for the employees, which now was limited to a social services activity for the residents. With the new changes, Gary finding his job less challenging, no longer responsible for the bulk of environmental service departments. The fall of 2008, a new enigma presented itself, a hard decision in the making. Maybe it was time to retire. Gary visiting with Fran, the 2 agreeing, keeping Brad and Rushmi abreast of his and Fran's conversation, but having no time frame in mind, offering to remain as long as necessary for them to find and familiarize someone to fill his position. Gary's first knowledge that someone had been hired was when summoned to the administrator's office, Rushmi introducing Tony as his replacement. He was somewhat surprised Rushmi hadn't invited him to sit in on any of the interviews, but accepted the circumstance. Tony appeared to be in his late 20s or early 30s, relating he had worked as the maintenance man at an apartment complex, Gary asking some basic questions about his electrical and plumbing experience. Not having been present for the interview, it was soon discovered this personable, clean-cut looking replacement possessed a pretentious semblance, with little or no experience confronting problem consonant of a healthcare facility, hopeful he was a quick learner. Pointing out the importance documentation, recording plant equipment inspections required by the state, and the necessity of a building morning walkthrough to grasp the obvious or potential problems for the day. Rahul, a visiting Country Villa corporate building operations coordinator having completed an inspection of the Modesto facility, approached Gary with a list of state code requirement that needed immediate updating. Apparently, Colony Park was exempt from the updates, able to grandfather in these technical violations. The first being the absence of GFIs. Ground fault interrupter receptacles in the break room, kitchen, and 32 restrooms. The second, replacing the non-latching window screens and other minor breaches. Gary began to notice Tony's work-related initiative was being redirected toward several of the young CNAs, somewhat unsure how to approach the situation as there was a lack of contention from them. It wasn't long before Tony's extracurricular activities became manifold, mentioning a separation from his wife, and a discovery of him sleeping in his car. Rashmi apparently made aware of the situation from the nursing staff. A reprimand was enhanced. With all that was going on, Gary coming to the conclusion it was time to give a retirement date. Then the unexpected happened. Rashmi calling him into her office breaking the news. Tony had given notice, having enlisted in the army, asking if he would remain until another person could be found. The process unfolding once again, Brad and Rashmi interviewing for a maintenance person, but this time the position of safety director no longer included. A second new hire selected, Alex. Like Tony, Alex had worked as a maintenance person in an apartment complex. Gary extending his stay another month, this time determined without fanfare, he would bid a farewell to Country Villa, a clock to no longer dictate the start of his day. He was less than 90 days into his retirement when he received the phone call. He recognized the voice. It was Rashmi, asking if he could return and resume his position, adding that Alex's performance was unacceptable, and she had just terminated his employment. What could one say? They both knew the answer. You never say no to a friend in need. His 6:30 a.m. morning alarm reset for the third time. Compliments of Country Villa.